Hello again. Look, no, it's not a puppet glove. It's my fingerless mittens. Well, fingerless mittens with a cover up, which my sister very kindly gave to me a couple of Christmases ago. Who knew that I would press them into service at the beginning of April? It's always a bit of a shock, isn't it, after the daffodils have come out in all look at me glory, we get a change of direction, north wind doth blow, and they droop a bit. We have to get our fingerless gloves out. The changing seasons in nature and in our life. I noticed by the mill stream, I used to live just across the way here, beyond the fire station. There is the mill stream, which is diverted from the main River Wye here because there was a big dispute between the Arkwrights who ran Lumford Mill. I think it's cotton. No, it will be wool here. Wrong county, Phil. Cotton is Lancashire, isn't it? Here in Derbyshire, I think it would be wool. And in the 17th century there was an argy-bargy over the wool mill, Lumford Mill, using up all the water and depriving the corn mill at Milford, just where I used to live. Not in the mill, you understand, in a cottage on the main road just by. And so what they did was they came to an accommodation or a digification and they dug a tributary of the main river to feed the corn mill. So you see, there is always a way. I was going to say a compromise. I'm not a big fan of this word compromise. You talk a lot about that in relationships, don't you? Oh, you have to compromise. No. Why don't I like the word compromise? To me, it sounds like the lowest common denominator solution, not the highest or best for both. It sounds to me like you both agree to not get what you want, frankly, which is possible for getting what you want is possible for both partners in a relationship, I reckon. Go for the best of both worlds. Maybe this is just the Shanks way of both and. If asked, do I want custard or ice cream, or indeed cream, on my Bakewell pudding, you've got to go for the pudding, by the way. That's the original here in Bakewell, not the tart. The tart is a towny usurper just sort of lording it over with a bit of icing and a cherry. It's not the real thing. Pudding's what you want. When asked custard or cream, I just ask for both. And you'd be surprised. It's never a problem. Ask for what you want. In relationships where we say you have to compromise, what does this really mean? What you can't find a way between you of ensuring that you both not get what you want, but you are gifted your highest desire by your loving partner. That seems to be the way to proceed for me. Anyway, what do I know? Once divorced, multi-loved. I'm still an apprentice in the love department too, not just the meditation department. So I'm not going to riff on that. That's not my speciality, really. Although I am taking lessons, and incredibly, the sun comes out on the bench by the river with the birds singing. It's been grey and chilly all morning. Not that I've been out in it, but it chooses this moment, this blessed moment, to shine on us. At the end of my 5 Paths week-long course on Lanzarote, I've only done it a few times. It's very intensive. It's wonderfully life-changing. It's personally exhausting, but hugely rewarding. At the end, it's actually the 7th day when we've done our different 5 Paths walks to the places that the artist and architect and eco-warrior Cesar Manrique built. Fabulous. Best coffee shop in the world on top of a cliff with a 50-metre glass wall overlooking La Graciosa, the island of grace, as I like to call it, where we cross on the ferry to a deserted golden beach called Playa de las Conchas, or Playa de las Consciousness, as I like to call it. And we bury our treasure chest with our treasure map in there, little ceremony. And I hide a bottle of fizz in the rocks, chilling in the Atlantic breakers. And we break that open and have a whole cheese. Do a little Thanksgiving ritual for these lives, these wildest dreams that we've seeded in the treasure chest. Nice little touch. That's Mirador del Rio, by the way. That's one of the 5 Paths. And on the last day of the course, the sun's gone in here now, but in the sunshine by this swimming pool at La Fuentecilla, which is where we host the 5 Paths then, Ignacio's garden, where the 5 Paths meditation walks were created. I danced around the pool naked in the sunshine, singing at the top of my voice to Sophie Ellis Bextor, "Today the sun is on us." It's gone in now, but you get the drift. Running past the mill stream, I noticed that the green shoots of the reeds, I don't know what they're called, the green shoots of the water reeds coming up out of the water, the ducks playing tag in between. Actually, the boys are chasing the ladies at this time of year. And when I lived there, I used to take a folding chair and table out and sit by the mill stream on the public path in the sunshine by the ducks early evening when the sun's still high. And I'd take my meal out on a tray, usually with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. I lived on my own, but it's surprising what a conversation you can bring up with passers-by, and quite often somebody would stop and share a glass of wine with me by the mill stream. But then in the autumn, it's quite remarkable. These tall mill stream reeds, they die down and they go all brown and mucky and sink below the surface of the water of the mill stream. And you think they can't possibly come to life again. But sure enough, next March and now April, they pop out of the water, fresh life from the muckiness. When I was in India, I once spent 5 hours up a tree over not a lily pond. What's the name of that exotic lotus? A lotus flower pond in the branches of a tree for 5 hours, waiting to be enlightened. This is sort of spiritual tourism, you understand. I was staying in Tiruvanamalai, which is the sort of headquarters of the non-duality, or technically it's called Advaita gurus in India. And I was hanging out with the gurus there. It's a bit like a supermarket sweep. You can there's half a dozen or more of the internationally acclaimed gurus of this non-duality there. That's where I first got to meet Muji. A bit more of that later, but the sort of headquarters is Ramana Maharshi's headquarters, and he's the big noise. He only died in the 1950s, I believe. You're not allowed to use died in sort of spiritual circles. You're supposed to say ascended or left this life or something. But to you and me, he died in the 1950s. And there's a big ashram. And next to the ashram, there's a canteen where everybody goes, and you can get a daily free meal there if you want, just so long as you don't mind sitting on the floor cross-legged and eating with your hands off a banana leaf. And this was my induction into non-duality, which immediately took root, and it's had a season in my soul. I'm sitting in the branches of this tree for 5 hours, meditating on becoming enlightened. Nothing happened, of course, despite the fact that I was very serious and eager. this selfish little clod of me wanting to get enlightenment, which is an understandable situation. We're all there. There's crowds of us, 400 in the rice factory, sitting at the feet of Muji every day at satsang. Satsang, by the way, is to you and me, we would call it a meeting, but it's a sort of a spiritual meeting where the guru sits usually on a platform, so he can be seen, usually in an armchair, a bit like a throne, and obligatory on by the side of him, he's got a table, and on the table there's a vase of flowers, and there is a framed picture of whoever the guru's teacher was. In this case, of Muji, it was a framed picture of Papaji. So you've got lineages of teachers, you see, that's how it works. And if you check out the YouTube videos of all of these teachers like Muji or Jeff Foster or Rupert Spira, they've all got a vase of flowers and a framed picture of their teacher next to them. Anyway, I'm up the tree, willing myself to become enlightened, and you know that there's a saying about the lotus flower. It grows out of shit. It's the detritus that sinks to the bottom of the pond that forms the sort of humus, the organic matter, the mud out of which the beautiful lotus grows. And at the risk of sounding a bit like Alan Bennett, life's a bit like that, isn't it? All the shit of our life floats to the bottom, and we can either wallow in it, or we can plant a seed. Oh no, a seed gets planted. You don't have to do the planting. Sometimes when you're least expecting, the seed of a new relationship, a new idea, in my case, a new business idea, which come thick and fast, come along, and it grows in the muck, in the shit of previous endeavors or relationships, and this is completely natural. And so we shouldn't. There are no shoulds, coulds, or oughts in the spiritual path. There's only what is, which is what my favorite teacher, mystic, 15th century mystic Meister Eckhart calls the Isness. So we are in, you and me, we are in the Isness business, paying attention to what is. And the secret We won't call it enlightenment or anything, because as soon as you put a name on anything, it sort of locks down into something the mind can chew on, and such things are beyond concepts of the mind. The sort of telltale sign of living in spirit, shall we say, is the absolute assurance that there's nothing wrong and nothing missing. Go figure. Ciao.